Now, what do people normally keep in a basement? Washing, tools, junk, journalists? Yes, that's where the politicians here have liked to keep the likes of us. But thanks to new arrangements negotiated by my good friend and fellow basement dweller Mark here, we are now allowed to breathe the fresh and free air above ground. Overcome with a sense of adventure, I went for a little wander earlier today. Well, you're looking at the ceiling in the Great Hall here at Parliament Buildings, the lavishly painted ceiling, which hasn't been retouched apparently since it was first done in 1932. I can tell you that because I've got my guide to Parliament Buildings. I've also got something else which I haven't had until recently. It's a special pass which allows me not quite the freedom of the building, but at least access to other areas where us humble journalists haven't been allowed to access before. So I thought, given that I've got my pass and my guide, I might take you on a little tour as well. Another room, another impressive ceiling. This is the rotunda outside the Senate chamber. The members, the MLAs, are currently in the Assembly chamber, which is back through those doors over that way, currently in full session. The Senate chamber is through here. There is no Senate any longer at Stormont. However, the room is still used. It's used mainly for committee meetings, and it is exactly as it was back in 1932, a little time capsule. This room was used by the RAF as an operations room during the war, but now it's given over to the work of committees. And in fact, it was in this room, and we think in these two chairs, that Ian Paisley and Martin McGuinness first sat in front of their committee. They had so much fun that afterwards they were nicknamed the Chuckle Brothers. Over on the wall here, we can see a portrait of the 108 MLAs of the first assembly that was formed after the 1998 agreement. You'll remember that the First Minister then was David Trimble. He is at the back here. But at the front, we find this man, Peter Robinson, our current First Minister. So perhaps the artist knew something we didn't. Now, at the back of the room here, or the front, depending on which way you look at it, there are three chairs. The grand one in the middle is the chair of the Speaker of the Senate. But because there's no Senate any longer, that chair is always empty. Well, here in the library, members and their staff have access to a varied and wide range of reading material. Histories on republicanism, on unionism, even ones on recent history of the Assembly by world-renowned transatlantic journalists. And, of course, a fabulous selection of periodicals. It's all designed, of course, to make them do a better job on your behalf. Well, back in the Great Hall, and standing at the top of this grand staircase is the statue of Lord Craigavon, cast in bronze, Northern Ireland's first Prime Minister, all 4,500 pounds of him here in statue form. He is actually buried outside in the grounds with his wife. But follow me for one of the best bits in the building. And this is it, the balcony at the front of Parliament Buildings. You access it through the members' dining room, but don't tell anyone. This is where you come if you want to get the best views in Belfast. Well, it is some view from that balcony. Mark, who says politicians like to look down on us?
No, it's a great view. We've been looked down upon in the press because we've been stuck down in the basement, but we're all going to be using this greater access, which I think is part of the attempt by the Assembly as well to engage with society in general, I suppose, through the press. One of the problems is that we do have this wonderful estate, but it does separate them a little bit out from the people, so they know that they've got to modernise their relations in general with the public, and communications is all part of that.
And of course, how they perform and transparency, so important these days, and we'll have something more on that tomorrow.
Yeah, we're expecting to hear some more details and proposals for a new code of conduct for Assembly members. I think the details are still all under wraps at the moment, but that's obviously going to be very interesting at this time when everybody's zoning in on how members do their jobs, the expenses they work up and so on.
OK, Mark, thanks.